Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting is currently taking place in Kigali, Rwanda. The third official day of the event has now come to a close. Arise correspondent Leila Johnson-Salami is currently in Kigali. Let's cross over to her now. Well, moving on, Nigeria has attained a total transparency score of 45 in the 2021 Open Budget Survey, which measures the transparency of a country's budget process. According to the International Budget Partnership, the score is a leap from 21 scored in its 2019 survey. The Open Budget Survey is the only comparable and independent measure of budget transparency, participation and oversight in the world. Compiled by International Budget Partnership, the 2021 survey covered 120 countries and placed Nigeria in the 65th position, having gained 23 points to score 45 over 100 for transparency in its budget process.
This improvement reflects ongoing efforts by government to improve the public availability of key documents information, which we just heard from the Director General. But this is also supported and reinforced by civil society groups who have joined together to ask for the data they need to understand how public funding is being prioritized, allocated, and spent. This big leap that we see in budget transparency in Nigeria is mainly driven by government's successful efforts to improve timeliness and availability of three key budget documents. So here you can see the pre-budget statement, the in-year reports, and the mid-year review have changed between 2019 and 2021.
On public availability of budget documents in Nigeria, the government published 7 out of 8, leaving out the audit report, which is vital in measuring transparency in the management of a country's finances.
This is the audit report of the government's financial statements. It's a critical document that's supposed to be published and produced by the Office of the Auditor General that ensures that the government accounts are sound, complete, and discloses any irregularities found in the government's finances. However, in Nigeria, the audit report is often published after a long delay, sometimes 2 to 3 years, which is far longer than the international standard for the publication of this document, which requires it should be published within 18 months of the end of the fiscal year.
The audit is outside the scope of the work of the Budget Office. Yes, there is a budget monitoring and evaluation function, but strictly, the audit function resides with the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation.
On public participation in the budget process, Nigeria scored 26 out of 100, a clear indication that much is desired of citizen participation.
If you don't engage with the budget, you can't assess anything. So whatever thing you want to do as farmers, we have to engage with the budget to make sure that our issues are captured in the budget for us to be able to track the budget.
To accelerate progress on budget transparency, the International Budget Transparency recommends that the Nigerian government must establish opportunities to engage the public in the process, curtail executive overreach by improving oversight, disclose better information on budget debt and fiscal risk, and make accountability reforms permanent. Onyi Sunday, Arise News.
Well, joining us now for more on this is Olusegun Elemo, Executive Director, Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. When you look at the budgeting process, apparently there's a transparency problem in Nigeria where you have Nigeria scoring 65 out of 120 countries looked at. But let's talk about the process from formulation to approval to implementation and control or evaluation. Where do you think the biggest problem lies? Which one lies more in, which is shrouded in secrecy, if you like to put it that way?
Well, I think you set the record straight, really. But I think where we have issues, it's around evaluation of the budget. and it has to do with oversight on the budget. I don't think we have as much issues we have with oversight as we have with formulation or implementation or execution. Even though there are lapses with execution, and you often see that with development outcomes that are envisaged at the planning stage. And when you compare with what is actually realized at the end of the day when public funds are then utilized. So you see a huge gap in that regard. But in terms of whether there is, high level of secrecy around that, formulation, implementation, and I don't think so. But of course, we do have issues around oversight of the budget. And in that introductory message, I think that set it right, what has to do with the audit reports and the Office of the Auditor General.
So let me take you up on that issue of audit reports. I mean, even if Nigeria scored an extra 23 points, it was very clear that when it came to the audit report, which is, call it the 8th document or so, that particular one was missing. And they also did, notice that it takes about 2 to 3 years before that report is put forward. Now, for a country that, keeps singing that chorus of fighting corruption, what do you make of this delay? How difficult is it, to ensure that the audit report is presented or made available within that year?
Well, just to also emphasize that, with regards to transparency, the Budget Office has done creditably well. I mean, when you compare our ranking now, the 2021 against 2019, and you said, we've added about 24 points and taken us to 45 thereabout. The audit report issue has been with us for quite some time now, and we've been looking to resolving that. And we thought we were going to leverage on, the president's, promise to fight corruption. And then we thought we're not going to have issues with that accountability mechanism and framework. But unfortunately, we haven't been able to get that going. For instance, the 2019 audit report, and that's the latest we have today, and we are in 2022, which means that the audit report for the 2020 financial year is not even out there. But to say that the 2019 audit report for the Federation, came out 21 months after, and that's not the best practice as proposed by International Budget Partnership. Yeah. We should actually have the documents, within 18 months. When you even consider that of the 2020 financial year, I think we're in June 2022 now, yes. And it's exactly 18 months after the close of the financial year 2020, and we don't even have the audit report in public domain. And it has not even been submitted to the National Assembly. So it goes to show our attitude towards, public accountability. Really.
When you say issues that have been with us for a long time, I mean, the issue of the ghost of pardon has been haunting Nigeria for a long time as well. Who should be the Ghostbusters here? Who should be, I mean, there's the Office of the Budget, but is that enough, mechanism to check this, to checkmate this, and the impact of the budget on the people? Because we hear these figures every year. We talk about formulation, implementation, evaluation in real terms. The economics of budget preparation and implementation. Has the Nigerian man and woman, the average Nigerian, have they benefited from this? I
don't think so. See, there are three main issues we're dealing with in Nigeria today. We have revenue shortfalls, we have debt crisis, even though we keep saying that our debt to GDP is low, but no matter how low the debt to GDP is increasing every day. And then we have, development gaps. And that development gaps is where you have pointed out now that, the ordinary Nigerian isn't feeling, the impact of the budget. And there's no how you're going to feel the impact of the budget if the budget oversight, if the oversight on the budget document is not, in proper shape. And to say that, for instance, in the 2018 financial year, you have about 79 agencies of government. By the way, the federal government oversees about 950 plus MDAs, over 500 corporations, some of which are statutory. And so in 2018 financial year, you have about, about 78 thereabout agencies that couldn't account for 671 billion naira. And in 2019, you have about 70 agencies of government that couldn't account for 455 billion naira. out of 2.2 trillion that was released to them in that financial year. Now, look at what that would have, how that would have impacted development outcomes. That meant that 20% of the development outcomes that should have been achieved in that financial year wasn't achieved. And if we tie that to, how capital projects were implemented in that financial year, it means that Nigerians, didn't feel much of the impact of those capital projects.
Well, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Nigeria's budget, of course, especially the importance, because many would say, what's all this talk about a budget? We're yet to feel the impact. Many may not really understand the importance of that audit report in moving the country forward. Well, thank you very much. We've been speaking to Olusegun Elemo, Executive Director, Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative.